The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of the small cottage on Maple Street, casting delicate patterns across the worn wooden floor. Nora Bannister stirred in her bed, her silver hair spread across the pillow like moonlight on water. At 66 years old, she had developed a rhythm to her mornings that rarely varied. Wake at 6, brew coffee, read for an hour, then walk the 3 blocks to Rose's Bakery, where she worked 5 days a week. This Tuesday morning felt no different from any other. The town of Ashcliffe was waking up around her, a symphony of familiar sounds that had become the soundtrack of her life for the past 15 years. Dogs barking, cars starting, the distant whistle of the early train heading north. She loved these sounds. They meant safety, predictability, peace. Nora pulled herself from bed, her joints protesting slightly as they always did these days. She moved to the window and looked out at the street below. Ashcliffe was a small town, population barely 3,000, nestled in a valley between rolling hills that turned gold in autumn and green in spring. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where the annual Harvest Festival was the social event of the year, where the most exciting thing that happened was when the mayor's cat got stuck in a tree. It was exactly the kind of place Nora had been searching for. She made her way downstairs, each step creaking in a familiar pattern. The cottage was small but comfortable, filled with second-hand furniture she had carefully selected from the local thrift store and antique shop. Books lined every available wall space, mysteries mostly, and a few classics. A small television sat in the corner, though she rarely turned it on. The radio was her companion, always tuned to the classical music station. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling the kitchen with the rich aroma of dark roast. Nora had splurged on good coffee beans, one of her few indulgences. She poured herself a cup, added a splash of cream, and settled into her favorite armchair by the window with her current book, a biography of Eleanor Roosevelt she had checked out from the town library. At 7:30, she set the book aside, rinsed her cup, and began getting ready for work. She dressed simply: comfortable jeans, a soft blue sweater, practical shoes. She pulled her hair back into a neat bun, applied minimal makeup, and studied her reflection briefly in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at her was pleasant, but unremarkable. Lines around the eyes, age spots on her hands, a slight stoop to her shoulders. A grandmother, a baker's assistant, a quiet neighbor. Nothing more, nothing less. The walk to the bakery took her through the heart of Ashcliffe. She passed the hardware store, where old Joe was already setting up the sidewalk display of gardening tools. "Morning, Nora," he called out, and she waved back with a smile. She walked by the library, dark now but soon to be filled with the Tuesday morning book club, past the town square with its modest fountain and benches where teenagers gathered after school, past the diner where she sometimes had lunch, and the small clothing boutique run by Mary Chen, and the post office where Patrick always had a cheerful greeting ready. Everyone knew her here. Everyone liked her. She was part of the fabric of Ashcliffe, woven in through years of small interactions, kindnesses, consistency. She volunteered at the library once a week, sorting books and helping with story time for children. She contributed baked goods to every church fundraiser. She remembered birthdays, asked about grandchildren, offered sympathy during hard times. She was exactly the kind of neighbor people valued. No one knew who she had been before. Rose's Bakery occupied a corner building that had once been a pharmacy. Rose had renovated it 15 years ago, knocking down walls to create an open space with a display case of gleaming glass, small round tables scattered throughout, and an open kitchen where customers could watch bread being shaped and pastries being filled. The smell was intoxicating. Yeast and sugar, cinnamon and vanilla, butter and chocolate. "Morning," Rose called out as Nora entered through the back door. Rose was 52, Energetic and perpetually flower-dusted, with wild, curly hair she kept trying unsuccessfully to tame under various head coverings. She had owned the bakery for 20 years and had hired Nora almost immediately after Nora arrived in town, despite Nora having no professional baking experience. "You have good hands," Rose had said during that first interview, "and honest eyes. That's all I need." Nora had been grateful beyond words. She needed work, needed structure, needed a reason to get up each morning. The bakery had become her anchor. "I've got a big order today," Rose continued, already elbow-deep in dough. "The Hutchinson wedding is this Saturday, and they want 300 mini cupcakes. 300! I don't know why people can't just have a normal cake anymore." Nora smiled and tied on her apron. "Because mini cupcakes are adorable, and everyone gets their own." "Adorable," Rose muttered, but she was smiling. "You work the front today. Emma's running late again. That girl would be late to her own funeral." Emma was Rose's niece, 23 and perpetually scattered, working at the bakery while she figured out what she wanted to do with her life. She was sweet and enthusiastic, but lacked Rose's discipline. Nora had a soft spot for her. The morning routine began. Nora unlocked the front door, turned the sign to open, arranged the pastries in the display case, and checked that the tables were clean and the napkin dispensers full. The first customers arrived shortly after 8, the construction workers who stopped by for coffee and donuts before heading to the new housing development on the edge of town. Then the mothers who had just dropped their children at school, treating themselves to a croissant and a moment of peace. The retired men who met here every morning to argue about politics and sports over bottomless cups of coffee. Nora knew them all by name, knew their usual orders, asked about their lives with genuine interest. This was her world now, and she had worked hard to make it feel real, to make herself believe that this was all she had ever been. Around 9:30, Emma burst through the door, flustered and apologetic. "I'm so sorry. My car wouldn't start, and then I couldn't find my other shoe, and—" "It's fine," Nora said calmly, though Rose was already giving Emma a stern look from the kitchen. "Just get your apron on. Mrs. Patterson will be here soon for her weekly quiche." The morning flowed into afternoon. The lunch rush brought office workers from the small businesses on Main Street, teenagers skipping their last period of school, tourists passing through on their way to the state park 20 miles north. Nora moved through it all with practiced ease, taking orders, making change, wiping tables, brewing fresh pots of coffee. At 2 o'clock, there was finally a lull. Emma was in the back, washing dishes and chattering to Rose about some drama with her boyfriend. Nora was restocking the napkins when the bell above the door chimed. She looked up to see Harold Whitmore, her neighbor and one of her few close friends in Ashcliffe. He was 71, a retired postal worker with kind eyes and a dry wit. They played chess together every Thursday evening on his porch, had done so for the past 10 years. "Afternoon, Harold," she said warmly. "The usual?" "Please," he said, settling himself at his favorite table by the window. "And tell Rose those lemon bars she made yesterday were exceptional." Nora brought him his coffee and biscotti, then sat down across from him for a moment. This was one of the privileges of working at Rose's bakery. Rose didn't mind if she took short breaks to talk with regulars, as long as the work got done. "How's the book?" Harold asked. He was a voracious reader, and they often discussed whatever they were currently reading. "Fascinating," Nora said. "Eleanor Roosevelt was an incredible woman. So much strength, despite everything she faced." "Strong women," Harold said, dunking his biscotti into his coffee. "The backbone of civilization, if you ask me. Which no one ever does." Nora laughed. Harold could always make her laugh. They talked for a few more minutes about books and the weather and the upcoming town council meeting about installing new streetlights on Elm Avenue. Normal things, safe things. When Harold left, Nora returned to her work. The afternoon continued its gentle pace. A few more customers drifted in and out. Rose emerged from the kitchen with a tray of fresh cookies, sampling one and declaring them acceptable. Emma scrolled through her phone during a quiet moment, showing Nora pictures of kittens someone was giving away for free. At 5 o'clock, Rose locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. The three of them spent the next hour cleaning up, washing dishes, wiping down surfaces, preparing what they could for the next morning. It was comfortable, familiar work. Nora's hands knew every movement without thought. "You want to take some of these home?" Rose asked, gesturing to the leftover pastries. "They won't keep till tomorrow." "Just a couple of the chocolate croissants," Nora said. "For breakfast tomorrow." Rose packed them up in a small box, refusing as always to let Nora pay. "Employee benefit," she insisted, as she did every time. Nora walked home as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The town was settling into its evening routine. Families gathering for dinner, teenagers congregating at the pizza place, couples taking walks around the park. She passed the bank on the corner of Main and 3rd, its solid brick facade and brass door handles gleaming in the fading light. The bank had been there for 80 years, a fixture of Ashcliffe stability and reliability. Back in her cottage, Nora made herself a simple dinner: salad and grilled chicken, a glass of white wine. She ate at her small kitchen table, reading more of her book. After dinner, she washed the dishes by hand, dried them carefully, and put them away. She watched an hour of television, some cooking competition that required no real attention. She prepared her clothes for the next day. She brushed her teeth, washed her face, applied her night cream. At 10 o'clock, she climbed into bed. The house settled around her with its familiar creaks and sighs. Outside, Ashcliffe was mostly dark and quiet. Everyone tucked into their homes, safe and secure. Nora closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but as she did every night, she found herself remembering, not the past 15 years in Ashcliffe, but the 25 years before that, the years she tried so hard to forget. The memories came whether she wanted them or not: the fluorescent lights of police stations, the weight of a badge, the sound of her own voice speaking calmly into a phone while her heart raced, the faces of people she had saved, and the faces of those she hadn't. One face in particular, always there in the darkness: a young man, barely 19, with frightened eyes. She had tried so hard to reach him, to convince the person holding him hostage to let him go. She had said all the right words, done everything her training had taught her. It hadn't been enough. The young man's name had been David Chen. He had been a college student, in the wrong place at the wrong time. The hostage taker had been desperate, drugged, beyond reason. Nora had negotiated for 8 hours straight. 8 hours of talking, listening, trying to find the thread that would unravel the situation without violence. But in the end, she had failed. David had died. She had watched it happen through the scope the SWAT team had set up, watched the moment when the hostage taker, panicking, had pulled the trigger. The team had moved in immediately, but it was too late for David. That had been 16 years ago. Nora had stayed on the job for another year, going through the motions, but something fundamental had broken inside her. She couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't stand in those tense situations, playing mind games with desperate people, knowing that one wrong word could mean death. The pressure had become unbearable. The nightmares had become constant. So she had left. Detective Nora Bannister, one of the most skilled hostage negotiators in the state, had handed in her badge and gun, and walked away. She had sold her apartment in the city, packed a single suitcase, and driven until she found a place that felt far enough away from everything she had been. She had found Ashcliffe. For 15 years, she had built a new life, a quiet life, a life where the most stressful decision was whether to make blueberry muffins or chocolate chip. A life where she didn't have to carry the weight of other people's lives in her hands. A life where she could pretend to be someone else. But every night, lying in the darkness, she remembered who she really was. And every night she saw David Chen's face. Eventually, exhausted by memories, she would fall asleep. And in the morning, she would wake up and do it all again. The coffee, the book, the walk to the bakery, the customers, the small talk, the pretending. It worked. Most days it almost felt real. Tomorrow would be Wednesday. Harold was coming over after dinner to discuss the book he had just finished. She had promised to make her special lemon chicken. Rose wanted her to come in early to help with a big order. Emma had asked for advice about her boyfriend troubles, normal things, safe things. Nora pulled the covers up to her chin and tried to believe that tomorrow would be just another ordinary day in her ordinary life. She had no idea how wrong she was. Wednesday morning began exactly as Tuesday had ended, with Nora believing that her life would continue its peaceful trajectory. She woke, made coffee, read, dressed, and walked to the bakery. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and Ashcliffe looked like a postcard of small-town America. Rose was already in the kitchen when Nora arrived, her hair even wilder than usual and flour coating her forearms up to the elbows. "Thank goodness you're here," she said. "I need help with these wedding cupcakes." "I've been at it since 5 this morning, and I've only done 100. They worked together in comfortable silence, Nora's steady hands piping frosting, while Rose prepared batch after batch of tiny cupcakes. Emma arrived on time for once, which Rose declared a miracle, and took over the front of the shop when they opened at 8. The morning passed in its usual rhythm. Nora found something meditative about the work, the repetitive motion of piping frosting onto each perfect little cake, creating tiny rosettes and swirls. Her hands were steady, her focus complete. This was exactly what she needed. Simple, concrete tasks with clear outcomes. Around 10:30, the bell above the front door chimed, and Nora heard Emma's cheerful greeting. Then there was a crash, the sound of something breaking, and Emma's voice changed, high-pitched, frightened. "Please don't." Nora dropped the piping bag and moved toward the kitchen door, Rose right behind her. Through the small window in the door, they could see the front of the shop. 3 figures in dark clothes and ski masks stood just inside the entrance. One held a gun pointed at Emma, who had gone white as paper. The display case lay shattered on the floor, pastries scattered among the glass. "Nobody move," the figure with the gun shouted. "This is a robbery." Time seemed to slow down. Nora felt her pulse spike, felt every muscle in her body tense. Her mind, dormant for so many years, suddenly roared to life with assessments and observations. 3 perpetrators. 1 firearm visible, possibly more. Male builds, though the one on the left could be female. Young by their movements and voices. Nervous energy. The one with the gun's hand is shaking. The one by the door keeps looking outside. The third one, largest build, hasn't moved yet, but is clenching and unclenching his fists. No customers in the shop currently, just Emma. Exit through the back door behind her. Windows on 2 sides, phone on the wall near the cash register. All of this processed in seconds, like riding a bicycle after years of not riding. Muscle memory, mental muscle memory, springing back to life. "The bank," the one with the gun said to the others. "Come on." They moved quickly out the door, running across the street toward Ashcliffe Community Bank. Emma started crying, her whole body shaking. Rose rushed to her, wrapping her arms around her niece. "It's okay, honey, it's okay, they're gone," Rose said, though her own voice was trembling. Nora stood frozen, her mind racing. She should call the police. She should check on Emma. She should... Through the broken front window, she saw the three masked figures burst into the bank. A moment later, she heard shouting, then a gunshot that echoed across the quiet morning street. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. She grabbed the phone from the wall and dialed 911. "This is Ashcliffe Community Bank, corner of Main and 3rd, she said, her voice automatically calm and clear. "Armed robbery in progress. At least 3 suspects, at least 1 firearm. Shots fired. Unknown number of hostages. Send police immediately." The dispatcher started asking questions, but Nora had already hung up. She moved to the broken window, careful to stay out of sight, and observed the bank. People were gathering on the street, drawn by the noise, their faces confused and frightened. In Ashcliffe, a gunshot was extraordinary, terrifying. "Nora, what are you doing?" Rose asked. She had gotten Emma to sit down in one of the chairs, was holding the girl's hand tightly. "Watching," Nora said, "making sure no one does anything stupid." A man from the hardware store started toward the bank, maybe thinking he could help. "Stop!" Nora called out through the broken window. "Stay back! Police are coming!" The man hesitated, then retreated. More people were gathering now, a crowd forming at a safe distance. Nora could see them pulling out cell phones, calling loved ones, recording video. The modern world, she thought. Everything documented, everything shared instantly. In the distance, she heard sirens. The police station was only 6 blocks away, a small building that housed Ashcliffe's force of 8 officers and 1 sheriff. She had met Sheriff Tom Mercer a few times at town events. A decent man, but probably not experienced in handling anything more serious than drunk driving and property disputes. 3 police cars arrived within minutes, screeching to a stop in front of the bank. Officers emerged, young and clearly uncertain. Sheriff Mercer took charge, organizing his people, establishing a perimeter, shouting for the crowd to move back. More sirens announced the arrival of the volunteer fire department. Nora watched it all with a critical eye. The perimeter was too loose. The officers were too exposed. No one had made contact with the people inside. The crowd was too close, too many variables, too much risk of someone getting hurt. Old instincts screamed at her to take control, to do what she had been trained to do. But she wasn't that person anymore. She had left Detective Nora Bannister behind 16 years ago. She was just a baker's assistant now, an ordinary woman in an ordinary town. A woman came running up to the police line, frantic. Nora recognized her, Linda Foster, who worked as a teller at the bank. "My daughter!" she was screaming. "Sarah's inside." "She's pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant." Sheriff Mercer tried to calm her, but Linda was beyond hearing. "You have to get her out. Please." Nora's chest tightened. A pregnant woman. More complications. More risk. Through the bank's front windows, she could see movement inside, shadows of people on the floor. The hostage takers had forced everyone down, standard procedure for this kind of thing. They wanted control, wanted to reduce the variables. But they had fired a shot, which meant they were nervous or aggressive, or both. Not good. Sheriff Mercer was on his radio, calling for backup from the county. The nearest city was 40 miles away. Response time would be at least 30 minutes for specialized units. Ashcliffe was on its own until then. "Nora, should we close up?" Rose asked from behind her. "What if they come back?" "Lock the back door," Nora said. "Keep Emma away from the windows." But stay inside. Don't go out there. She couldn't stop watching. Through the front window of the bank, she saw one of the masked figures appear, looking out at the police. He was holding a phone, the old landline from inside the bank. He was going to try to negotiate. But with whom? Sheriff Mercer was a good man, but he wasn't trained for this. None of them were. Ashcliffe didn't have a hostage negotiation team. They probably didn't even have protocols in place. The phone in the bakery rang, making all three women jump. Rose answered it. Rose's bakery. We're closed right now due to... Yes, she's here. Just a moment. Rose held out the phone to Nora, her expression confused. It's for you. It's Sheriff Mercer. Nora's blood ran cold. She took the phone slowly. Hello? Nora, I need you to come out here. The sheriff's voice was tense, strained. Right now. Why? Just come. Please. She hung up and stood there for a moment, her heart pounding. How did he know to call her? What could he possibly want? I have to go out there, she said to Rose. What? No, Nora. It's dangerous. I'll be fine. Just stay inside. She walked to the back door, unlocked it, and stepped out into the alley. Her legs felt unsteady as she made her way around the building to where the police had set up their command post behind one of the patrol cars. Officers watched her approach, their faces grim. Sheriff Mercer met her halfway. He was 45, graying at the temples, and right now he looked 10 years older. Nora, I need your help. I don't understand. He pulled her further away from the other officers, his voice dropping low. I know who you are, or who you were. Detective Nora Bannister, San Francisco PD, hostage negotiation team. You were one of the best. The world tilted slightly. How? I ran everyone in town through the system last year. Routine background checks after that fraud case. Your old ID came up. I recognized the photo, even though you've aged. I never said anything because I figured you had your reasons for being here. Nora couldn't speak. 15 years of careful anonymity shattered in a moment. I need you to talk to them, Sheriff Mercer said urgently. There are 12 people in that bank. 12 people, including a pregnant woman. I've got one deputy who did a weekend course on crisis intervention, but that's it. We're 40 minutes from real help, and anything could happen in 40 minutes. I can't, Nora heard herself say. I don't do that anymore. I know, and I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. But those are our people in there. Rose Patterson is in there. Nora's heart stopped. Rose? She's here. She's in the bakery. Not your Rose. Rose Patterson, she owns the flower shop. She was making a deposit when they came in. He paused. I know you and your Rose are friends. Well, Rose Patterson is my wife's sister. And Sarah, the pregnant teller, that's my niece. The weight of it pressed down on Nora's chest. Real people. People she knew, at least by sight. This wasn't some abstract situation in a distant city. This was Ashcliffe, her town, her home. I can't, she said again, but her voice sounded weak, even to her own ears. Nora, please. I'm not too proud to beg. Those people in there need someone who knows what they're doing. You're the only one. She looked past him at the bank. Inside were 12 people whose lives hung in the balance. Outside was a sheriff out of his depth, officers too young and inexperienced, and a town that had no idea how to handle something like this. And then, unbidden, David Chen's face rose in her mind, the face that haunted her every night, the young man she had failed to save. I can't do it, she whispered. Last time I tried, someone died. Sheriff Mercer's expression softened. I read about that case. You negotiated for 8 hours. 8 hours. You did everything right. What happened wasn't your fault. That's not how it feels. I know, But right now, I've got 12 people who need you to try again. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm just asking you to be better than nothing, which is what I've got right now." A long moment of silence stretched between them. In that silence, Nora felt the full weight of her past pressing against her carefully constructed present. For 15 years, she had run from this. From responsibility, from pressure, from the possibility of failure. She had built a safe, small life where nothing she did had life or death consequences. But that life had just been shattered like the bakery's display case. She could walk away, could refuse, go back to the cottage, pretend none of this was happening. Let Sheriff Mercer handle it however he could. Let the county units arrive eventually. Let whatever would happen without her involvement. But 12 people would still be inside that bank. One of them pregnant. One of them named Rose, like her friend. All of them scared, probably hurt, definitely traumatized, even if they survived. And she was the only person in 40 miles who might be able to help them. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I do it my way. You follow my instructions exactly. No heroics, no second guessing. I run the negotiation." Relief flooded Sheriff Mercer's face. "Anything you need?" "First, I need to know everything. What do we know about them? What are they asking for? Has anyone been hurt?" They moved to the command post, a folding table someone had set up behind the patrol cars. Sheriff Mercer spread out a rough map of the bank's layout that someone had drawn from memory. 3 suspects, all masked. 1 female, 2 male based on build and voices, armed with at least 2 handguns and what looks like a shotgun. 12 hostages, 5 bank employees including the manager, 7 customers. 1 shot fired shortly after they entered. We don't know if anyone was hit. They've got everyone on the floor in the main lobby. What do they want? Haven't said yet. One of them picked up the bank phone about 5 minutes ago, saw us out here, then hung up. I think they're trying to figure out their next move. Good. Means they're uncertain, not following a careful plan. That gives us room to work. Nora studied the map, her mind automatically calculating angles, escape routes, tactical considerations. The pregnant woman, Sarah. Where was she when this started? Behind the counter, teller station number 3. Okay, what about the one you called Rose? She was in line waiting to make a deposit. She's 62, has a bad knee. My wife is frantic. Nora nodded, filing away each detail. Every piece of information mattered. Every fact could be the key to finding the right words, the right approach. I need a phone with a direct line to the bank. Not a police radio, a landline if possible, or a cell phone they can answer. And I need everyone quiet while I'm talking. No distractions. We can route your call through our dispatch. They have the bank's number. Good. And I need everyone to stand down. No tactical movements, no one approaching the building unless I say so. The last thing we need is them feeling threatened and doing something impulsive. Sheriff Mercer called over his deputies and gave them instructions. They looked skeptical, glancing at Nora with obvious doubt. She didn't blame them. To them, she was just the woman from the bakery, not a seasoned negotiator. But when she spoke, her voice carried an authority that made them listen. This is a delicate situation. One wrong move and people die. I know that's not what any of you want. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be patient, we're going to be calm, and we're going to get everyone out safe. Understood? They nodded, and she saw respect dawn in their eyes. Maybe she didn't look like much, but she sounded like someone who knew what she was doing. Because she did. Even after 16 years, even after trying so hard to forget, she still knew exactly what she was doing. Sheriff Mercer handed her a phone. Whenever you're ready. Nora took it, feeling its weight in her hand. This moment felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she had made her choice. She dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, someone picked up. "Who is this?" A male voice, young, stressed. "My name is Nora," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I'm here to help." "Who am I speaking with?" There was silence on the other end of the line, just the sound of heavy breathing. Nora waited, letting the silence stretch. One of the first rules of negotiation: don't rush. Let them feel the space. Let them be the ones to fill it. "You're the police?" the voice finally said. "I'm talking to you on behalf of the police, yes. But I'm not a police officer. I'm just someone who wants to make sure everyone gets out of this okay." True enough, she wasn't a police officer anymore. "What's your name?" "You think I'm stupid?" "I'm not telling you my name." "That's okay. Can I call you something? Just so we're not just strangers talking?" Another pause. Call me Marcus." "Okay, Marcus." "Thank you for talking to me. That's a good first step. Can you tell me what's happening in there? Is everyone okay?" "Everyone's fine, for now." The threat was obvious but delivered without conviction. This wasn't someone comfortable with violence, Nora noted. Good sign. "That's good to hear. Really good. I'm glad no one's hurt." "Marcus, I'm going to be straight with you. I know you're in a difficult situation. Things probably didn't go the way you planned. But right now, we have a chance to make sure this ends well for everyone, including you. You don't know anything about me." "You're right, I don't. But I'd like to. Help me understand what you need, Marcus. What would make this situation better?" "What do you think we need?" "We need money. We need to get out of here. Okay, those are reasonable things to want. Let's talk about how we can make that happen. But first, I need to know that everyone inside is really okay. Can you tell me about the shot we heard? Was anyone hurt?" More silence. Then, "It was an accident." Jason got nervous, the gun went off. Nobody got hit. Jason. Another name. 2 suspects identified now, even if those weren't their real names. Progress. I'm glad to hear that. Accidents happen when people are stressed. I can tell you're trying to keep control of the situation, Marcus. That's smart. It shows you don't want anyone to get hurt. We don't. We just want to do this and leave. But now you're all out there and everything's messed up. I understand. Plans change, things get complicated, but we can work through this. The most important thing is that everyone stays safe. Can you do something for me, Marcus? Can you make sure everyone in there has water? It's going to be a warm day, and people get dehydrated when they're scared. Why do you care? Because they're people. Just like you're a person. Everyone in there has families, has people who love them. I'm sure you understand that. She heard muffled conversation on the other end. Marcus talking to someone else. Then he came back on the line. There's water. We're giving them water. Thank you. That means a lot. Those people are scared, Marcus. Having you take care of them, even in that small way, it helps. Nora was building rapport, establishing that Marcus was capable of empathy, of decent behavior. Each positive action made the next one more likely. Can you tell me about the people in there? Are they all doing okay? Anyone have medical conditions I should know about? There's a pregnant lady. She's crying a lot. Sarah. Nora's chest tightened. Pregnancy is stressful even without a situation like this. Is she hurt? No, just scared. Do you think she could sit in a chair instead of on the floor? Being pregnant, it's hard on the body to sit on a hard floor for a long time. Would that be okay? I guess. Thank you, Marcus. Really? That's very considerate of you. More positive reinforcement. Anyone else need any accommodation? Anyone elderly or having trouble? There's an old lady with a cane. She keeps asking to sit down. Rose Patterson, probably. Could she sit too? Fine. Whatever. You're doing good, Marcus. You're showing you care about people's welfare. That matters. Nora paused, then shifted direction slightly. Can I ask what happened? What brought you to this point today? What do you mean? I mean, people don't rob banks on a whim. There's usually a reason, something that pushed you to this. I'd like to understand. Why? So you can analyze me? Figure out my weaknesses? No, so I can help. Maybe there's a solution here that doesn't involve anyone going to prison, but I can't help if I don't understand what you need. A long silence. Nora waited, fighting the urge to fill it with more words. She could hear Sheriff Mercer breathing beside her, could feel the tension of the deputies around them. But she kept her focus on the phone, on Marcus's breathing, on the sound of movement in the background. We need money, Marcus finally said. A lot of money. My sister is sick and we can't afford the treatment. Insurance won't cover it and I've tried everything else. Everything. This was the last option. And there it was. The human reason behind the crime. Not greed, not malice, but desperation. Desperation was something Nora could work with. Your sister is sick. I'm sorry to hear that. That must be incredibly hard for you, for your whole family. You don't know. His voice cracked slightly. You don't know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer and not be able to do anything about it. You're right. I don't know your exact situation, but I do know what it's like to feel helpless, to feel like you've run out of options. And I know that what you're doing right now, it comes from love. You're trying to help your sister. She's only 23. She has her whole life ahead of her. She doesn't deserve this. No, she doesn't. And neither do you. Neither does anyone in this situation. But Marcus, let me ask you something. If you get this money, if you get out of here, what happens then? You give it to your sister, but you're on the run. You can't be there for her. You can't support her through her treatment. Is that what you want? I don't know what else to do. I hear you, and I know it feels like there are no other options. But there are always options. We just have to find them together. What if I told you that we could help? Not with this robbery, but with your sister's situation. There are resources, programs, people who specialize in helping with medical costs. I've tried all that. It's not enough. Maybe we haven't tried everything yet. Give me a chance to make some calls, see what I can do. Will you do that? Will you give me some time? How much time? An hour. Give me 1 hour and I'll see what resources I can find for you. In exchange, I need you to let someone go. As a show of good faith. Let me help your sister and you help me by letting one person leave. Which person? The pregnant woman. Sarah. She needs medical attention just to make sure the baby is okay. Let her go and I'll start working on helping you. What do you say? More muffled conversation. This time it lasted longer, voices raised in what sounded like an argument. Nora gripped the phone tighter, waiting. My partners don't think it's a good idea, Marcus said when he came back. Why not? They think you're just trying to trick us, that you'll storm in once we open the door. I won't. I give you my word, and my word means something. Let Sarah go, and nothing else happens. No one approaches the building. Nothing changes except one person gets to leave safely. How do we know we can trust you? Because I haven't lied to you yet. I've been honest about everything. I want everyone to come out of this alive and okay, including you and Jason and your other partner. I'm not your enemy, Marcus. I'm someone who wants to help, but I need you to meet me halfway. Sheriff Mercer was writing something on a pad of paper, pushing it toward her. Ambulance ready, it said. There's an ambulance right here, Nora continued, just for Sarah to make sure she and the baby are healthy. She walks out, gets in the ambulance, and that's it. No tricks. You'll be able to see the whole thing from the window. The silence this time was agonizing. Nora could almost hear Marcus thinking, weighing options, trying to decide if she was trustworthy. If you're lying, he started. I'm not. I promise you, Marcus. Let Sarah go, and I'll work on helping your sister. That's the deal. Okay, he said finally. Okay, but just her, and you all better stay back. We will. When? 5 minutes. We need to talk first. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Thank you, Marcus. This is the right choice. You're doing good. The line went dead. Nora set down the phone and released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Sheriff Mercer was staring at her. That was incredible. How did you do that? Training, practice, and luck. She turned to him. We need that ambulance visible but not threatening. Park it where they can see it from the window, and everyone else stays back. He's skittish, and if he thinks we're trying something, he'll shut down. What about this stuff about helping his sister? Can we actually do that? I don't know, but we're going to try. Get me in touch with social services, the hospital, anyone who deals with medical assistance programs. I need real options to give him, not empty promises. Sheriff Mercer nodded and started making calls. Nora stood there, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had forgotten this feeling, the intensity, the focus, the high-stakes mental chess game. It was terrifying. It was also, she realized with some surprise, exhilarating. For 15 years, she had been sleepwalking through life, safe but half alive. Right now, standing in the middle of this crisis, she felt more present, more herself, than she had in all that time. But she couldn't let herself enjoy it. 12 people were still inside. 11 after Sarah came out. And this was far from over. The 5 minutes felt like 50. The ambulance pulled up slowly, parking 20 feet from the bank's front door. The paramedics stayed inside, waiting. Officers held the perimeter, weapons ready but not raised. The crowd had grown larger, more people drawn by the excitement, phones out, recording everything. Then the bank's front door opened. Everyone tensed. Hands moved to weapons. Nora held up her hand sharply. Hold your positions! A figure appeared in the doorway, one of the masked suspects, the one who had been standing by the door earlier. He was holding Sarah, a young woman with dark hair and obvious pregnancy, helping her walk. She was crying, shaking, barely able to stand. The masked figure led her carefully down the steps and toward the ambulance. True to Nora's word, no one moved. The paramedics opened their back door and the masked figure helped Sarah inside. Then he turned and ran back into the bank. The door slammed shut. The paramedics immediately began checking Sarah over. Sheriff Mercer spoke into his radio. Any sign of injuries? Negative. She seems okay, just extremely stressed. We're taking her to the hospital for a full examination. As the ambulance pulled away, Nora felt the first small victory. 1 person safe, 11 more to go. The phone rang. She answered immediately. Marcus, thank you for keeping your word. You better keep yours. His voice was harder now, some of the earlier vulnerability gone. I will. I'm already making calls about your sister. What's her name? Why? Because I can't help her if I don't know who she is. And because she's a person, not just an abstract concept. What's her name, Marcus? A pause. Amy. Her name is Amy. Amy. Okay. What's her condition? What kind of treatment does she need? Marcus started talking, and as he did, Nora signaled to Sheriff Mercer to get someone taking notes. It was a rare form of cancer, requiring experimental treatment that insurance classified as non-essential. The costs were astronomical. Amy had been doing fundraising, trying every option, but it wasn't enough. She had months, maybe a year if she was lucky. As Marcus talked about his sister, his voice changed. The hardness fell away, replaced by exhaustion and grief. This was a man at the end of his rope, taking desperate measures because he couldn't think of anything else to do. "I'm going to help," Nora said when he finished. "I can't promise miracles, but I promise I'm going to try. In the meantime, can you talk to me about the other people in there? Tell me their names, how they're doing. Help me understand the situation better." And so they talked. Marcus told her about Michael, the young teller who had been so terrified when they came in that he had started hyperventilating. About Rose, the older woman with the bad knee, who had actually been kind to them, offering no resistance. About the bank manager, Mr. Hartley, who had opened the safe without argument, trying to protect his employees. With each detail, Nora built a clearer picture. She also kept Marcus talking, kept him engaged, kept him thinking of the hostages as people rather than obstacles. Every moment he spent talking to her was a moment he wasn't making things worse. An hour passed. Then 2. Sheriff Mercer brought her updates. Social Services was looking into Amy's case. The hospital was being contacted. A grant specialist was reviewing potential funding sources. It was slow going, complicated by bureaucracy and the fact that Nora didn't even have Amy's last name yet. But she could tell Marcus that progress was being made. Could keep him engaged, keep him hopeful. During hour 3, things got tense. Jason, the nervous one who had fired the accidental shot, got on the phone. He was panicking, talking fast, saying they needed to leave now. They needed to take hostages and go. "Jason, I need you to breathe," Nora said calmly. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you do that for me?" "This is taking too long." "You're stalling." "I'm not stalling. I'm working. These things take time, but I'm making real progress. I need you to trust me." "I don't trust you. I don't trust any of this." "Okay, that's fair. You don't know me, but ask yourself, have I done anything yet that hurt you?" "Sarah got medical attention, just like I said. We've stayed back, just like I promised. I've been honest with you. What reason do I have to lie now?" "Because you're trying to keep us here until more cops come." He wasn't wrong. The county tactical team had arrived 20 minutes ago, staging 2 blocks away. But Nora kept her voice steady. "Jason, more police are here, yes. But they're not doing anything. They're waiting. Just like you're waiting. Everyone's waiting for me to find a solution that works for everyone. There's no solution. We're going to prison no matter what. Maybe. But there are different kinds of prison, different lengths of sentences. And there are judges who take circumstances into account. You didn't hurt anyone. You let Sarah go. Those are things that matter. But if you hurt someone now, if you make things worse, that changes everything. Don't throw away the good you've done so far." "Put Marcus back on," Jason said abruptly. "Okay, it was good talking to you, Jason. I know you're scared, but we're going to get through this." Marcus came back on the line. "Jason's freaking out. I don't know how much longer I can keep him calm." "Then let more people go. Show me you're in control. Let someone else leave, and I'll have more good news for you about Amy." "What news?" Sheriff Mercer was holding up a piece of paper. Nora read it quickly, then smiled. "We found a foundation that specializes in helping with exactly Amy's type of cancer. They've agreed to review her case on an emergency basis. It's not a guarantee, But it's real hope, Marcus. Real possibility. And that happened because you've been working with me. Keep working with me and let's see what else we can accomplish. She could hear him thinking. Who leaves? Your choice. But maybe someone who needs it most? Rose, the older woman. Let her go home. My partner Derek says no. He says we're giving up too much. Derek, the third one, the one who hadn't talked much, who Nora was least able to read. That was concerning. Let me talk to Derek, she said. He doesn't want to talk. Then you tell him this from me. The longer this goes on, the worse it gets for everyone. Every hour that passes, the police get more nervous, the people inside get more traumatized, and the situation gets more unstable. The smart play is to de-escalate, to show good faith, to work toward a peaceful end. Holding on to people isn't making you safer. It's just making everything more complicated. More muffled conversation. Then Marcus came back. Fine. The old lady can go. But that's it for now. Thank you. This is good, Marcus. You're making the right choices. 10 minutes later, the door opened again. Rose Patterson emerged, leaning heavily on her cane, moving slowly down the steps. An officer met her halfway and helped her to safety. The door closed again. Nora watched Rose being led away, saw the relief and terror on her face. 9 hostages left now. Progress, but still so far to go. It was now mid-afternoon. Nora had been negotiating for nearly 5 hours straight. Her voice was getting hoarse. Her body was tense and sore from standing still for so long. But she couldn't stop, couldn't take a break. The moment she stopped, the fragile connection she had built with Marcus might break. Sheriff Mercer brought her water, which she drank gratefully, brought her a sandwich, which she nibbled at between phone calls. The county tactical team commander kept trying to give her updates, tactical options, suggesting scenarios where they could make an entry. She kept shutting him down. Not yet, she said firmly. We're making progress. Nobody goes in unless absolutely necessary. They could be in there hurting people right now, the commander argued. They're not. I'd hear it. Marcus is talking to me regularly, telling me what's happening. If I thought people were in immediate danger, I'd tell you. But right now, patience is our best weapon. By hour 6, Nora could hear the strain in Marcus's voice. He was exhausted. His partners were arguing. The hostages were getting restless. The situation was deteriorating. Marcus, let's end this, Nora said. You've shown tremendous restraint. You've let 2 people go. You've kept everyone safe. Let's finish this the right way. Let everyone else go, and let's get you the help you need. Help? You mean prison. I mean the chance for your sister to get treatment. The chance for you to show a judge that you're not a violent criminal, that you made a mistake out of desperation and love. The chance to see Amy again someday, instead of getting shot by a SWAT team. Is that a threat? No, it's reality. The longer this goes on, the more danger everyone is in, including you. I don't want that. But I can only control this situation for so long. Help me help you, Marcus. I don't know. Yes, you do. You know this has to end. You've known it from the beginning. You're not a bad person. You're a person who made a desperate choice in an impossible situation. But you can still walk away from this. You can still have a life on the other side. Let everyone go. Come out with your hands up. No one gets hurt. That's the best ending anyone could ask for. Silence. Long, terrible silence. Then, I need to talk to my partners. Okay, take your time. But Marcus, I'm here. I'll keep being here. I'm not going anywhere. The line went dead. Nora set down the phone and closed her eyes. Her whole body was shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline. You're doing amazing, Sheriff Mercer said softly. I don't know if it's enough. It's more than anyone else could have done. The sun was starting to set, painting Ashcliffe in golden light. What should have been a beautiful evening was instead a nightmare. Families were gathered behind the police lines, waiting for news of loved ones. News crews had arrived from the nearest city, cameras recording everything. The entire town had come to a standstill, and inside that bank, 9 people waited to find out if they would live or die. The phone rang again 20 minutes later. Nora grabbed it immediately. Marcus? But it wasn't Marcus. The voice was different, deeper, harder, angrier. This is Derek. Marcus is done talking. He's weak, too soft. Things are going to be different now. Nora's blood ran cold. This was the scenario she had been dreading. A shift in power dynamics, a more aggressive personality taking control. Derek, it's good to finally talk to you. I'm Nora. I know who you are. And I know what you're doing. All this psychology stuff, making us think you care. But you don't. You just want us to give up. I do want you to give up, that's true. But not because I don't care. Because I don't want anyone to get hurt, including you. Nice try. Here's the new deal. You get us a car and $100,000 in cash. You have 1 hour. If we don't have both those things in 1 hour, we start shooting people. Every muscle in Nora's body tensed. This was the worst-case scenario. Demands coupled with threats, a hard deadline, a personality less amenable to reason. Derek, I understand you're frustrated. This has been a long, stressful day for everyone. But what you're asking for isn't realistic. Getting that much cash together takes time, and giving you a car doesn't solve anything. You wouldn't get far. Then I guess we start killing people. Your choice. No, Derek. It's not my choice. And it's not yours either. If anyone dies in there, you're looking at murder charges. Life in prison minimum. Is that what you want? Because that's what you're promising me right now. Better than what we're looking at already. You're looking at robbery charges. Non-violent robbery, since no one's been hurt. That's maybe 5 to 10 years, out in 7 with good behavior. You could still have a life. But if you hurt anyone, that changes to life in prison or worse. That's not a choice, Derek. That's suicide. Maybe we don't care anymore. I don't believe that. You've been in there for 7 hours. If you really didn't care, you would have hurt someone already. You haven't. That tells me you're not a murderer. You're not someone who wants to hurt innocent people. You don't know anything about me. Then tell me. Help me understand. What brought you here? Why are you doing this? It doesn't matter. It does to me, and it should to you. Because your story, your reasons, they could make the difference between whether you spend the next decade in prison or the rest of your life. She could hear him breathing heavily. You think you're so smart. Think you can talk your way around anything. I'm just trying to help. That's all I've been trying to do all day. Help everyone get out of this safely. By trapping us here? By having us surrounded by cops with guns? The police are here because a crime is being committed. But they're not doing anything. They're waiting. Because I asked them to wait. Because I believed we could solve this without violence. Was I wrong, Derek? Are you going to make me wrong? 1 hour, he said coldly. Car and cash, or people start dying. The line went dead. Nora stood there, her mind racing. This was bad. Derek was not Marcus. He wasn't motivated by love for a sick sister. He was motivated by something else. Fear, anger, desperation of a different kind. And he had given her an ultimatum that was impossible to meet. I heard, Sheriff Mercer said. What do we do? We don't have $100,000 in cash, do we? Not even close. maybe 20,000 from various sources, and that would take time to gather. And if we give them a car, they're just taking hostages with them. Trading one bad situation for a worse one. The tactical team commander stepped forward. This changes things. He's made a direct threat against the hostages. We need to consider making an entry. And risk a shootout with 9 people in the line of fire? No. So what's your plan? Let the deadline pass and hope nothing happens? My plan is to keep talking. To get Marcus or Jason back on the line. To remind Derek that he doesn't want to be a murderer. And if that doesn't work? Nora met his eyes. Then we'll deal with that if it happens. But we're not giving up yet. She picked up the phone and dialed. It rang and rang, but no one answered. She tried again. Nothing. They're not answering, Sheriff Mercer said. I can see that. Nora's mind was working furiously. Derek had given her an hour. That meant she had 60 minutes to figure out how to prevent a massacre. She needed to understand Derek better, needed to find his pressure points, his vulnerabilities. But she had barely talked to him, didn't have enough information. Sheriff, I need you to do something for me. Find out everything you can about these 3. They have to be local or at least regional. 3 people committing an armed robbery together means they know each other, probably well. Check recent arrests, check anyone who's been asking about Amy's medical situation, check. Already on it, Sheriff Mercer said, holding up his phone. My deputies have been running down leads all afternoon. We think we've identified them. Marcus is Marcus Webb, age 26. His sister, Amy Webb, was diagnosed with cancer 8 months ago. Jason is Jason Park, age 22, Marcus's cousin. And Derek is Derek Sutton, age 29. Served time for assault 3 years ago. Released last year. There it was. Derek had a violent past. That explained the harder edge, the more aggressive stance. What was the assault charge? Bar fight. Broke a man's jaw. Did 18 months. Not great, but not the worst. A bar fight was impulsive violence, not planned. Derek was capable of violence, but it wasn't necessarily his default. Okay, Derek did time. That means he knows what prison is really like. He knows how bad it can be. That's something I can work with. How? By reminding him that there are different levels of bad. County jail for robbery is bad. State prison for murder is infinitely worse. She dialed again. Still no answer. She checked her watch. 45 minutes left on Derek's deadline. Maybe I should try a different approach, she said. Sheriff, can you get me a phone number for Amy Webb? The sister? Why? Because she's the reason Marcus is doing this. If I can talk to her, maybe she can talk to her brother. Get him to see reason. It took 10 minutes to track down Amy's number and get her on the phone. When Nora explained who she was and what was happening, Amy started crying. Oh God, this is my fault. He did this for me. It's not your fault, Amy. Your brother made his own choices. But you can help him now. You can help end this before anyone gets hurt. How? By telling him the truth. That you don't want him to go to prison. That you don't want him to hurt anyone. That his life matters to you more than money for treatment. Can you do that? Yes, of course. But how? Nora thought quickly. I'm going to call the bank again. If they answer, I'm going to ask them to put Marcus on the line. And then I'm going to conference you in. You tell him exactly what I just said. Tell him you need him to come home. Can you do that? I'll try. I'll do my best. That's all I'm asking. Nora set up the conference call and dialed the bank again. This time, someone answered. What? It was Derek, sounding even angrier than before. I need to talk to Marcus. No, I'm in charge now. Derek, please. I have someone here who needs to talk to him. Just for a minute. I don't care. You have 35 minutes left. Where's my car and money? I'm working on it. But please let me talk to Marcus. It's important. No. And he hung up. Nora swore under her breath. She could hear Amy crying on the other line. I'm sorry, Nora said to her. I'm going to keep trying. She hung up and looked at Sheriff Mercer. We need a new strategy. What about giving them something? Not the full amount, but something to show we're trying? It might buy us time. But it also reinforces the threat, shows them that threatening violence works. But if the alternative is people dying, I know. Nora rubbed her temples. She had a headache forming, sharp and insistent. Get together whatever cash you can. Have it visible. Let them see we're making an effort. But don't give it to them yet. Use it as leverage. Sheriff Mercer hurried off to coordinate. Nora stood there, feeling the weight of every passing second. 28 minutes left. She tried calling again and again. On the 5th try, someone finally answered. I told you, Derek started. I'm trying, Nora said, letting frustration creep into her voice. I'm doing everything I can. But you have to give me more time. These things don't happen instantly. Not my problem. Derek, listen to me, please. You don't want to hurt anyone. I know you don't. You're not that person. You don't know anything about me. I know you went to prison for a bar fight. I know that was probably one of the worst experiences of your life. And I know that murdering someone will send you right back there. Only this time, you'll never get out. Is that what you want? Silence. You have a chance right now, Nora continued. A chance to walk away from this without anyone dying, without spending the rest of your life in a cage. But that window is closing. Help me help you, Derek. Stop saying that. Stop pretending you care about helping me. I do care. Because if you hurt someone in there, I'll have to live with that too. I'll have to know that I failed to prevent it. And I really, really don't want that. For the first time, Derek didn't respond immediately. Nora pressed her advantage. I'm looking at a bag of cash right now. It's not the full amount you asked for, but it's something. And I'm working on getting a car. But I need more time. Give me more time. And let someone else go. Show me you're still reasonable. Show me I'm right to keep trying. How much cash? 20,000. That's not enough. It's what we have right now. But it shows we're taking you seriously. And there's more coming. Just give me time. Another long silence. Then, let me talk to the others. The line went dead again. Nora's hands were shaking. 15 minutes left. Sheriff Mercer returned with a duffel bag. 22,000. It's everything we could pull together on short notice. Let them see it. Hold it up where they can see from the window. An officer took the bag and walked slowly toward the bank, stopping 30 feet away. He held it up, unzipped it to show the contents, then set it down and backed away. Through the bank windows, Nora could see movement. The hostages were still on the floor. The 3 masked figures were talking, arguing by the looks of it. One of them approached the window, looked at the bag, looked at the police presence outside. The phone rang. Nora answered. Marcus? Yeah, it's me. He sounded exhausted, defeated. Derek wants to take the money and run. Jason wants to give up. I don't know what to do anymore. I do. You give up. You let everyone go and you walk out with your hands up. You've kept everyone safe all day, Marcus. Don't throw that away now. I failed her. I failed Amy. No, you haven't. I talked to her. She doesn't want you to do this. She wants you to come home. How can she not want me to try? She's dying. She wants her brother. She wants you alive and eventually free, not dead or in prison forever because you did something you can't take back. Nora could hear Derek shouting in the background. Marcus said something back, his voice rising. The argument was escalating. Marcus, you need to make a choice right now. Are you in charge, or is Derek? Because if Derek is in charge, people are going to die, and you're going to have to live with that. I can't control him. Then let everyone go and get out of there. End this before it's too late. I don't, the phone clattered, dropped or thrown. Nora heard shouting, scuffling, then a gunshot, loud and sharp even through the phone line. Marcus, Nora shouted. Marcus, what happened? Who was shot? No response, just chaos, people screaming, more shouting. Then Derek's voice, closer to the phone. That was a warning shot. Next one goes in someone's head. You have 5 minutes or they all die. The line went dead. Sheriff Mercer grabbed Nora's arm. That's it. We have to go in. No, not yet. Nora, he just fired a shot. He's going to kill someone. He fired into the ceiling. It was a warning. If he wanted to shoot someone, he would have. We can't risk... I know, Nora's voice cracked. I know the risk. But storming in there now, when they're already agitated and armed, that's even worse. Give me 5 minutes. He said 5 minutes. Let me try one more time. The tactical commander was already moving his team into position. You have 5 minutes. If you can't talk them out by then, we're making entry. Nora nodded, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She dialed. No answer. Dialed again. Nothing. 4 minutes. She tried once more. This time, someone picked up. Jason? She recognized his voice, higher pitched than the others. This is insane, he said, his voice shaking. We need to stop. We need to give up. Yes, you're absolutely right. Let everyone go, Jason. End this. Derek will kill me. No, he won't. And even if he tried, the police will protect you. You'll be safe. But you have to be the one to start it. Let the hostages go, open that door, and let them run. I can't. You can. You're the only one who can stop this. Marcus is trying, but he's too torn up about his sister. Derek is too angry. But you, Jason, you're the voice of reason. You're the one who knows this has gone too far. Be the hero here. Save these people. 3 minutes. If I do this, I'm going to prison. Maybe. Probably. But you'll be alive. And you'll have done the right thing. That has to count for something. She could hear him crying. I'm so scared. I know. But you're also brave. You're brave enough to end this. Open the door, Jason. Let them go. 2 minutes. Okay, he whispered. Okay. Right now, Jason. Right now. She heard movement, heard Derek shouting, "What are you doing?" Heard Jason shouting back, "It's over. It's done." And then, miraculously, the bank's front door opened. People started running out. Hostages, stumbling, crying, helping each other. Mr. Hartley, the bank manager. 3 tellers, 2 customers. Michael, the young teller who had been so frightened. All of them running toward the police line, toward safety. 7 people out, but there should be 9. Jason, where are Marcus and Derek? Nora said urgently into the phone. They're still here. Derek is... A gunshot, then another. Jason! No response. Moving in! The tactical commander shouted, and his team rushed the building. Nora stood frozen, her worst nightmare unfolding. She had failed. Someone was dead. Maybe multiple people. After all her work, all her efforts, violence had won. The next 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Police swarmed the bank. More shots fired, but these were from police weapons. Shouting, orders, controlled chaos. And then finally, officers emerged. 3 in custody. Derek, handcuffed and bleeding from a shoulder wound. Marcus, handcuffed and sobbing. Jason, also handcuffed, looking shell-shocked. All three alive, all three captured. "Status report," Sheriff Mercer barked into his radio. "Building secure." One suspect with a minor gunshot wound, non-life-threatening. Two suspects uninjured. 0 hostage casualties. Repeat, 0 hostage casualties. Nora's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the pavement, her whole body shaking. 0 casualties. Everyone alive. Sheriff Mercer crouched next to her. "You did it." "They're all okay." "I almost didn't. But you did. 7 hours of negotiation, 9 hostages freed, 3 suspects in custody, and nobody died. That's a win, Nora. That's a huge win." But it didn't feel like a win. It felt like she had been walking on a tightrope over a canyon and only barely made it to the other side. She had come so close to failure, so close to watching people die, just like David Chen. Except this time, no one had died. This time, she had saved them. The realization hit her slowly, sinking in through the shock and exhaustion. She had done it. After 16 years of running, 16 years of doubt and fear and trauma, she had faced the exact situation that had broken her before. And this time, she had won. The next hours passed in a blur. Paramedics checked everyone for injuries. Police processed the crime scene. Hostages were taken to the hospital for evaluation, though none had serious physical injuries. The psychological trauma, Nora knew, would take much longer to heal. Reporters tried to interview her, but Sheriff Mercer ran interference, giving her space. She sat in the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm evening, drinking water and trying to process what had happened. Emma found her there. Rose's niece threw her arms around Nora, crying, "You saved them. You saved everyone." "I just talked," Nora said. "That's all." "That's not all. You're amazing. You're a hero." Nora didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted and wrung out and confused, but she hugged Emma back and let the young woman cry on her shoulder. Rose came next, still flour-dusted from the bakery, her face streaked with tears. "The other Rose, my friend Rose Patterson, she called me. She said you saved her life. She said you knew exactly what to say, exactly how to handle it. I had training. A long time ago. You never told me." There was no accusation in Rose's voice, just wonder. "I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to leave that life behind." Why? It was the question Nora had been avoiding for 16 years. And now, sitting in an ambulance at the scene of a crisis she had just resolved, the truth seemed unavoidable. "Because I failed once, and I couldn't live with it." She told Rose everything. About Detective Nora Bannister, about David Chen, about the 8 hours of negotiation that had ended in death, about the nightmares, the guilt, the feeling that she had lost some essential part of herself. "So I ran," Nora finished. "I came here and became someone else, someone who didn't have to carry that weight." Rose was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Did it work? Did you stop carrying it?" "No, I carried it every day. I just pretended I didn't." "And now?" "Now." Nora looked out at the scene. The bank with its broken windows, the police cars with their flashing lights, the crowd of people who had gathered to witness something terrible that had, by grace or skill or luck, ended without tragedy. "Now, I don't know. Today was supposed to prove that I was right to leave, that I couldn't do this anymore. But instead you saved 12 people," Rose said firmly. "You stood up when everyone needed you, and you saved 12 people. That's not failure, Nora. That's the opposite of failure, was it?" Nora wasn't sure. Yes, everyone had survived, but it had been so close. Derek's finger on the trigger, One wrong word away from disaster. Marcus's desperation, Jason's fear. So many things that could have gone wrong, but they hadn't. Against odds, against expectation, everyone had made it out. Sheriff Mercer approached, looking as exhausted as Nora felt. "The county chief wants to talk to you. And the mayor, and about 50 other people. I can put them off if you need time." "I don't know what to tell them." "Tell them the truth. You're a trained hostage negotiator who saved a dozen lives today. You're a hero. I'm a baker's assistant who got lucky." "You're both," Sheriff Mercer said. "And that's okay. But right now, this town needs to know who really saved those people. They need to know about Detective Nora Bannister." The name felt strange after so many years of not using it. Strange, but not wrong. Maybe that was the real revelation of the day. She could be both people. Could be the skilled professional and the quiet baker. Could carry her past without letting it destroy her. Over the next several days, the story spread through Ashcliffe like wildfire. Nora Bannister, the sweet woman from the bakery, was actually a legendary police negotiator who had come out of retirement to save the town. The fact that she had been living among them for 15 years without anyone knowing added to the mystique. Reactions were mixed. Some people felt betrayed that she had hidden her identity. Others understood why she had needed to escape her past. Most were simply grateful that she had been there when the crisis struck. The hostages, when they were released from the hospital, all asked to meet her. She sat with each one, listening to their stories, their fears, their gratitude. Michael, the young teller, told her he was quitting banking to become a paramedic. He wanted to help people in crisis, like she had helped him. Mr. Hartley, the bank manager, shook her hand for a solid minute, unable to find words. And Rose Patterson, the older woman with the bad knee, hugged her tightly and whispered, "Thank you for my life." Marcus, Jason, and Derek were arraigned on multiple charges. Marcus and Jason, with the help of good lawyers and the testimony of the hostages about their restraint, received relatively light sentences. Derek, with his prior record and his escalation of the situation, faced much harder time. But they were alive. They would go to prison, would pay for their crimes, but they had the chance for rehabilitation, for eventually returning to society. That wouldn't have been possible if the day had ended differently. Amy Webb reached out to Nora personally, thanking her for trying to save her brother even while stopping his crime. The foundation Nora had mentioned had indeed come through, providing funding for Amy's treatment. There were no guarantees, but there was hope. Real hope, obtained legally, without anyone dying for it. A week after the crisis, Harold came over for their usual Thursday chess game. They sat on his porch as the sun set, the board between them, playing in comfortable silence for a while. "You're a dark horse," Harold said finally, moving his knight. "All this time, I thought you were just a nice lady who liked to read." "I am just a nice lady who likes to read." "You're also apparently a badass who talks armed criminals into surrendering." Nora laughed despite herself. "I wouldn't say badass." "I would. The whole town is saying it." He moved his queen, putting her king in check. "So what now? Are you leaving? Going back to the big city, back to your old life?" It was a question Nora had been asking herself constantly. She could leave, could return to law enforcement, use her skills professionally again. The county had already offered her a consulting position. The state police wanted her to train their negotiators. She had options now, opportunities she hadn't had in years. But every time she thought about leaving, she thought about Rose's bakery, about the Tuesday morning regulars, about Emma's chatter and Harold's chess games, and Diane at the library discussing books, about the small, quiet life she had built here. "I'm not leaving," she said, moving her king to safety. Ashcliffe is my home. Even after everyone knows your secret? Maybe especially because of that. I spent 15 years hiding, Harold. I'm tired of hiding. Good, he smiled. Because I'd miss you. And I'm finally getting close to beating you at chess. You're nowhere close. Let me have my delusions. They played until it was too dark to see the board, and Harold had lost as usual, and Nora walked home through the quiet streets of her town. People she passed said hello, some adding congratulations or thanks. She nodded, smiled, kept walking. At home, she made herself tea and sat in her armchair by the window. Her book lay where she had left it a week ago, still marked at the page about Eleanor Roosevelt. She picked it up and tried to read, but her mind kept drifting. A week ago, her biggest concern had been remembering to buy more flour for the bakery. Now, she was wrestling with questions about identity, about redemption, about whether she could forgive herself for her past failure. David Chen's face still appeared in her mind. She supposed it always would. But alongside his face now were 12 others, the hostages from the bank, alive because of her. That didn't erase David's death. Nothing could. But maybe it balanced the scales slightly. Maybe it meant she wasn't the failure she had believed herself to be. Her phone rang. She checked the caller ID. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Miss Bannister? This is Dr. Jennifer Roth from the State Police Crisis Intervention Unit. I was hoping we could talk about a position we have available. We're looking for someone with your experience to help develop our hostage negotiation protocols. Nora looked around her small, comfortable cottage. At the books on the walls, the tea cooling in her cup, the view of Maple Street outside her window. A peaceful life, a quiet life. The life she had chosen. But maybe she had chosen it for the wrong reasons. Maybe she had chosen it out of fear, out of shame, out of the belief that she didn't deserve to use her skills anymore. Maybe it was time to choose again. Not between the big city and the small town, but between hiding and stepping forward, between running from her past and owning it. I'd be interested in hearing more, Nora said. But I should tell you, I live in Ashcliffe, and I'm not planning to move. Would remote consulting be possible? Absolutely. In fact, that might be ideal. We could bring trainees to you, learn from you in a real-world small-town setting. They talked for 20 minutes. Dr. Roth outlined a position that would let Nora train new negotiators, develop better protocols, consult on active cases. She could do most of the work from home, traveling only occasionally. It would mean using her skills again, but on her own terms, in her own place. When she hung up, Nora felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement. Not the adrenaline-fueled intensity of an active crisis, but the quieter excitement of possibility, of purpose. The next morning, she walked to Rose's bakery as usual. The front display case had been replaced, the broken glass swept away. Emma was already there, chattering about her boyfriend. Rose was in the kitchen, wrestling with a batch of stubborn dough. "Morning," Rose called out. "You're right on time." Nora tied on her apron. "Where else would I be?" "I thought maybe you'd be off being famous. You know the news trucks finally left yesterday? I think they realized you weren't going to give them the dramatic interview they wanted. I've said everything I need to say, which is almost nothing." "Exactly." They worked together, falling into their familiar rhythm. Nora felt the tension that had been coiled in her chest for days begin to ease. This was right. This was home. She could be Detective Bannister when needed, could train new negotiators, and help in crisis situations. But she could also be Nora from the bakery, who made excellent croissants and knew everyone's regular order. She could be both. Around mid-morning, Sheriff Mercer came in. He ordered his usual coffee and Danish, then lingered at the counter. "I heard the state police called you," he said. "News traveled fast in Ashcliffe." "They did. You taking the job?" "I'm considering it." "Good. You should." He paused. "I also wanted to thank you again. Not just for what you did last week, but for what you've been doing for 15 years. You didn't have to come help. You could have stayed hidden, let someone else handle it. But you stepped up. That took courage. Or stupidity." "Courage," he insisted. "And I hope you know that everyone in this town is proud of you. Even the ones who are still processing the shock of learning you used to be a cop." After he left, Nora stood behind the counter for a moment, just breathing. Proud. They were proud of her. When was the last time she had felt proud of herself? Maybe that was another thing she needed to work on. She had spent so long punishing herself for one failure that she had forgotten all her successes, all the lives she had saved before David Chen, all the crises she had resolved, the families she had reunited, the tragedies she had prevented. She had been good at her job. Really good. And maybe, just maybe, she could be good at it again. 3 months after the bank incident, Ashcliffe had mostly returned to normal. The tourists who had come hoping for excitement had moved on. The news crews had found other stories. Life in the small town settled back into its comfortable routine. But for Nora, everything had changed. She still worked at Rose's bakery 4 days a week. But 1 day a week, she drove to the county seat where she met with trainees from the State Police Crisis Intervention Unit. She taught them everything she knew: how to read people, how to build rapport, how to stay calm when everything was chaos, how to negotiate not from power, but from empathy. The trainees were young and eager, hanging on her every word. She found she enjoyed teaching, enjoyed passing on knowledge she had spent decades accumulating. Each session ended with the same speech. "Remember, your job isn't to win. It's to make sure everyone gets home alive. Sometimes that means the bad guys walk out in handcuffs and the hostages walk out traumatized but breathing. That's not failure. That's success." She also started attending therapy, not because anyone made her, but because she finally admitted to herself that she needed it. For 16 years, she had carried David Chen's death alone, letting it fester into a wound that never healed. Working with a trauma specialist, she finally began to process what had happened, to understand that she had done everything possible, that his death was not her failure. It was slow work. Some days she still saw his face, still felt the guilt crash over her like a wave. But other days, she could remember him without drowning, could acknowledge the tragedy without taking full responsibility for it, could forgive herself, a little bit at a time. Her life became a balance, the ordinary and the extraordinary, the peaceful bakery and the high-stakes training sessions, the woman who loved books and chess, and the expert who could talk someone down from violence. She was learning that she didn't have to choose between these identities. She could be all of them at once. Harold noticed the change. "You seem lighter," he said one Thursday evening over chess. "Like you've been carrying a heavy bag and finally set it down." "Maybe I have." "Good. You were always good company, Nora, but you're even better company when you're not torturing yourself." She smiled. "Is that your way of saying I'm more fun now?" "You're definitely more fun. You're also getting better at chess, which is concerning. I might actually have to start trying." The hostages from the bank also stayed in touch. They had formed an informal support group, meeting monthly to talk about their experience and recovery. Nora attended sometimes, offering what support she could. She watched them heal, slowly but steadily, and felt a fierce pride in their resilience. Sarah, the pregnant woman, gave birth to a healthy baby girl, She named her Nora Hope. "I hope you don't mind," Sarah said when Nora came to visit at the hospital. "But you gave me hope that day. You gave all of us hope. And I wanted my daughter to have a name that meant strength and possibility." Nora held the tiny infant, feeling tears sting her eyes. "I don't mind at all. It's an honor." Rose Patterson recovered fully from her ordeal, though she admitted to being jumpier than before. She and Nora became friends, bonding over their shared experience. They had lunch together once a week, talking about everything and nothing. "You know what the strangest part is?" Rose said one afternoon over sandwiches. "I always thought you were just this sweet, quiet woman. I never imagined you had such depths, such strength. I think everyone has depths. You just don't see them until circumstances demand it." "Maybe. But yours run deeper than most," Marcus Webb wrote to Nora from prison. His letter was short, filled with apologies and gratitude. The foundation she had mentioned was indeed helping Amy, whose cancer was responding to treatment. She had months to live, maybe a year, maybe more. Every day was precious. "Thank you for not giving up on me," Marcus wrote. "Thank you for seeing past what I was doing to why I was doing it. And thank you for helping my sister. I know I'm going to prison, but knowing Amy is getting care makes it bearable. You gave me that. You gave her that. I'll never forget it." Nora kept the letter. Some days she read it when the guilt about David Chen became too heavy. It reminded her that mercy mattered, that understanding mattered, that sometimes the best way to stop a crime was to see the humanity in the criminal. Jason Park was released after serving 6 months, given credit for time served, and a light sentence in recognition of his decision to open the door and let the hostages go. He came to see Nora at the bakery, nervous and apologetic. "I don't know if I should even be here," he said. "After what I did." "You did something terrible," Nora agreed. "But you also did something brave. You stopped it when you could have let it escalate. That matters. I just wanted to say thank you for talking to me that day, for helping me see that I didn't have to be part of the worst thing that could have happened." "What are you going to do now?" "I'm enrolling in community college, going to study to become a counselor. I want to help people, not hurt them." He paused. "My mom says I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can balance the scales a little by doing some good." "That's all any of us can do." Derek was the only one who remained unrepentant. His sentence was the longest. 15 years for armed robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, and reckless endangerment. He would be middle-aged when he got out, assuming he got parole. Nora didn't have much hope for his rehabilitation, but she tried not to judge. Everyone's path was different, everyone's capacity for change unique. The town's attitude toward Nora evolved over time. The initial shock wore off, replaced by a kind of comfortable acceptance. She was still the woman from the bakery, just with an interesting backstory. People stopped treating her like a celebrity and went back to treating her like a neighbor. That was exactly what Nora wanted. On the 6-month anniversary of the bank incident, the town held a small ceremony at the courthouse. Sheriff Mercer presented Nora with a commendation from the county for her service. The 12 former hostages all attended, applauding as Nora accepted the plaque. "I don't need recognition," Nora said when it was her turn to speak. "I did what anyone with my training would have done. I'm just grateful I was in the right place at the right time to help." "You're too modest," the mayor said. "You saved lives." That deserves recognition. Then recognize this. Everyone in that bank saved themselves. Marcus and Jason made the choice to listen to reason. The hostages stayed calm and trusted the process. All I did was facilitate. The real heroes are the people who chose not to give in to violence and fear. After the ceremony, Nora walked back to the bakery where Rose had prepared a small celebration. Emma had made a banner that said, "Congratulations, Detective Nora," in slightly crooked letters. Harold brought champagne, despite Nora's protests that she didn't want a fuss. "Too bad," Rose said firmly. "You're getting a fuss whether you want one or not. We're proud of you. Deal with it." So Nora dealt with it. She drank champagne and ate cake and let her friends celebrate her. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, she let herself believe that she deserved it. That evening, alone in her cottage, she sat at her desk and wrote a letter. Not to Marcus or Jason or any of the people from the bank incident, but to David Chen's mother. It was a letter 16 years overdue. In it, she explained who she was, that she had been the negotiator during David's hostage crisis. She apologized for not saving him, for all the ways she had replayed that day in her mind, for carrying guilt that probably paled in comparison to a mother's grief. And she told Mrs. Chen about what had happened in Ashcliffe, about how David's death had haunted her, had driven her from her career, had shaped every choice she had made for 16 years, about how, when faced with a similar situation, she had drawn on everything she had learned from that terrible day and used it to save 12 lives. "I can never bring David back," Nora wrote, "and I would give anything to have been able to save him. But I hope you can find some small comfort in knowing that his death was not meaningless. What I learned from that experience, from my failure to save him, helped me save others. Your son's legacy is that he taught me something essential about the limits of control, the importance of patience, and the necessity of forgiveness. I only wish I had learned those lessons in a way that didn't cost him his life." She mailed the letter, not knowing if Mrs. Chen would respond or even if she still lived at that address. But sending it felt like closing a circle, like acknowledging a debt that had been outstanding for too long. 2 weeks later, she received a response. Mrs. Chen's letter was brief. "Thank you for writing. David was my only child, and his death destroyed me in ways I'm still recovering from 16 years later. I don't blame you for what happened. I never did. You tried to save him. The man who killed him is the only one responsible for his death. I'm glad you were able to help others. I'm glad David's death wasn't the end of your story. He would have wanted you to keep helping people. He was like that, always thinking of others. I hope you found peace. I'm still looking for it, but maybe someday." Nora cried when she read it, cried for David, for his mother, for all the lives touched by that long-ago tragedy. But she also felt something lift from her shoulders. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. Mrs. Chen didn't blame her. That didn't erase Nora's own complicated feelings about what had happened, but it helped. It helped more than she could have imagined. A year after the bank incident, Nora's life had settled into a new normal. She worked 3 days a week at the bakery, spent 2 days a week training negotiators, and kept her weekends for herself. She had learned to balance her two identities, to be both the peaceful baker and the skilled professional. The nightmares about David Chen came less frequently now. When they did come, she had tools to deal with them, ways to process the trauma instead of just enduring it. Her therapist said she was making remarkable progress. Nora wasn't sure about remarkable, but she did know she was better, lighter, more whole than she had been in 16 years. Rose's bakery thrived. Rose had hired another assistant, a recent culinary school graduate named Marcus, no relation to Marcus Webb, though the coincidence had made everyone smile. Young Marcus was talented and enthusiastic, taking some of the workload off Rose and Nora. "I'm thinking about semi-retirement," Rose confessed one day. "Maybe work just 3 days a week, Let you and Marcus handle the rest. We can manage, Nora said. You've earned a break. What about you? Don't you want a break? You're 67 now, Nora. Most people your age are fully retired. I'm not most people. Clearly, Rose smiled. You're teaching, working here, and I heard from Tom Mercer that you consulted on a hostage situation in the county last month. When do you sleep? I sleep fine, and I like staying busy. You've certainly earned the right to slow down if you wanted. Maybe. But I spent 15 years slowed down, Rose. Hidden away, afraid of my own abilities. I don't want to waste any more time. She meant it. Every day felt precious now, an opportunity to use her skills, to help people, to live fully instead of cautiously. She was 67, yes. But she felt more alive than she had at 52 when she had first arrived in Ashcliffe. The state police training program was going well. She had trained over 30 negotiators in the past year, teaching them everything from basic rapport building to advanced psychological techniques. Several of them had already successfully resolved crisis situations using what she taught them. You're making a real difference, Dr. Roth told her during one of their regular check-ins. We're seeing better outcomes, fewer violent resolutions. Your methods work. They're not my methods. They're tested protocols, best practices. Delivered with your experience and wisdom, that's what makes them effective. You bring something to the training that can't be taught from a textbook. Real understanding of what it's like to stand in that moment, to feel the weight of responsibility. Nora appreciated the recognition, but she still felt uncomfortable with praise. She was just doing what needed to be done, using skills she had spent decades developing. It felt less like heroism and more like obligation. The obligation of someone with rare skills to use them for good. Emma left the bakery to attend college, studying psychology with the goal of becoming a therapist. You inspired me, she told Nora on her last day. The way you talk to people, the way you understand them. I want to do that too. Maybe not in hostage situations, but in therapy, helping people work through their problems. You'll be wonderful at it, Nora said sincerely. You have empathy and patience. Those are the most important qualities. Harold's health declined slowly but steadily. At 72, he was dealing with arthritis and high blood pressure and the general wear of aging. But he remained sharp and funny, still beating Nora at chess occasionally, still reading voraciously. When I die, he told her one Thursday evening, I want you to have my books. All of them. I know you'll appreciate them. You're not dying anytime soon. We're all dying, Nora. Some of us are just closer to the finish line than others. But I'm not afraid. I've had a good life, good friends. He smiled at her, especially in my later years. You're not allowed to get sentimental on me. I'm old. I'm allowed to be whatever I want. The town continued to evolve. New families moved in, drawn by Ashcliffe's quiet charm and affordable housing. The Harvest Festival grew bigger each year, becoming a regional attraction. The old pharmacy building next to Rose's Bakery was renovated into a coffee shop run by a young couple from the city who wanted a simpler life. Change was constant, but the core of Ashcliffe remained the same. A small town where people knew each other, looked out for each other, built lives together. It was exactly the kind of place Nora had needed when she first arrived, and it was still exactly the kind of place she needed now. On the first anniversary of the bank incident, Nora visited the site. The bank had been renovated, the damage repaired, everything restored to normal. You couldn't tell by looking that something traumatic had happened here. But Nora could feel it, could remember standing outside in the heat, negotiating for hours, feeling the weight of 12 lives in her hands. You okay? Sheriff Mercer had appeared beside her, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the new coffee shop. Just remembering. It was a good day. Well, good ending anyway. It was. She accepted the coffee. Thank you, by the way, for trusting me that day, for believing I could do it when I didn't believe it myself. I believed because I saw who you were. Not who you had been or who you were pretending to be, but who you actually were. Someone who couldn't walk away when people needed help. Is that who I am? You tell me. You're the one who came out of retirement to save 12 strangers. You're the one who's now training others to do the same thing. You're the one who turned a moment of crisis into a second act of a career. A second act. Nora liked that description. Not a return to her old life, not a continuation of her hiding, but something new. A synthesis of everything she had been and everything she had become. I suppose I am, she said. They stood in comfortable silence, drinking their coffee, watching Ashcliffe go about its day. The bank was busy with customers. Rose's bakery had a line out the door. Harold was sitting on a bench in the town square, reading his newspaper. Diane was opening the library. Mary Chen was arranging a new display in her boutique window. Normal life. Precious, ordinary, normal life. The kind of life that was only possible because people like Nora stood ready to defend it when necessary. You ever regret staying here? Sheriff Mercer asked. Instead of going back to the big city, I mean. Never. This is my home. These are my people. Good. Because we need you. Not just for crisis situations, but for all of it. The bakery, the library, volunteering, the chess games with Harold. You're part of what makes this town what it is. After he left, Nora finished her coffee and walked to the bakery. Rose was at the counter, helping a customer choose a wedding cake design. Young Marcus was in the back, singing off-key while he kneaded dough. The smell of fresh bread and cinnamon filled the air. Nora tied on her apron and got to work. There were croissants to shape, pastries to fill, customers to serve. Simple work, honest work. The kind of work that had kept her sane for 15 years and that still grounded her now, even as she took on more complex challenges. She was both people now, completely and without conflict. Detective Nora Bannister, hostage negotiator and trainer, and Nora, the baker's assistant who made the best lemon bars in town. Both identities were real. Both were necessary. Both were her. At the end of the day, after the bakery closed and everything was cleaned and put away, Nora walked home through the golden afternoon light. She passed the bank, the library, the town square. She waved to neighbors, stopped to chat with Mrs. Patterson about her garden, scratched old Joe's dog behind the ears. In her cottage, she made dinner and ate it slowly, savoring each bite. She read for an hour, a novel this time instead of a biography. She called her sister in Oregon, whom she had recently reconnected with after years of minimal contact. They talked about their lives, made plans for her sister to visit Ashcliffe in the summer. At 10 o'clock, Nora brushed her teeth and got ready for bed. She looked at herself in the mirror, 67 years old, silver hair, lines around the eyes, age spots on the hands. An ordinary woman living an ordinary life, except it wasn't ordinary at all. It was extraordinary in its mixture of the mundane and the meaningful, the peaceful and the purposeful. She had found a way to use her skills without letting them consume her, to help people without sacrificing her own well-being, to be both the person she wanted to be and the person others needed. She climbed into bed and closed her eyes. No nightmares came that night. Instead, she dreamed of David Chen, but not as she usually did. In the dream, he was young and alive and smiling. He was telling her it was okay, that she had done enough, that she could rest now. When she woke the next morning, Nora felt lighter than she had in years, maybe even lighter than she had ever felt. The past was still there. It would always be there, but it no longer controlled her. She had faced her worst fear, her greatest failure, and discovered that she was stronger than she thought, that she could still do good work despite past mistakes. That redemption was possible, even after 16 years. The sun was rising over Ashcliffe, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere, Rose was already at the bakery, starting the first batch of bread. Harold was waking up, planning his day around his morning coffee and newspaper. Sheriff Mercer was arriving at his office, ready for whatever the day might bring. And Nora Bannister, former detective, current baker's assistant, and always a woman who helped when help was needed, was getting ready to do it all again. To live her double life with grace and purpose. To be exactly who she was meant to be. She made her coffee, picked up her book, and settled into her chair by the window. Outside, Ashcliffe was waking up. Inside, Nora was at peace. This was her life now. Both lives, really. And she wouldn't change a thing. 5 years after the bank incident, on a cool October morning, Nora Bannister celebrated her 71st birthday by making a triple-layer chocolate cake at Rose's bakery. Rose, now fully retired and living in Florida with her husband, had sent her the recipe with a note. For the woman who saved my best friend's life and makes the town's best pastries. Young Marcus, not so young anymore at 33, ran the bakery now, with Nora working 2 days a week. She spent her other days training negotiators, consulting on crisis situations, and occasionally helping the state police develop new protocols for handling complex hostage situations. She had become, somewhat reluctantly, a minor legend in law enforcement circles. The Ashcliffe Miracle was taught as a case study in police academies across the country. Nora had been invited to conferences, asked to write a book, featured in articles and documentaries. She declined most of it, preferring her quiet life in Ashcliffe to any kind of fame. But she did accept a position on a national advisory board for crisis negotiation. She felt she owed it to the field, to all the negotiators who would face impossible situations and need guidance. If her experience could help even one of them succeed where she once failed, it was worth the occasional trip to Washington, D.C. Harold had passed away 2 years ago, peacefully in his sleep. Nora still missed their Thursday chess games, still thought about him whenever she walked past his house. But she didn't mourn him the way she once might have. Harold had lived well and fully, right up to the end. That was the best anyone could hope for. Emma had graduated with her psychology degree and was now a therapist specializing in trauma recovery. She worked with first responders, helping them process the difficult things they witnessed. She still credited Nora with inspiring her career choice. The former hostages had all moved forward with their lives. Sarah's daughter, Nora Hope, was now 5 years old, bright and energetic. She sometimes came into the bakery with her mother, and Nora would give her a cookie and think about the day she had negotiated for that child's safe birth. Marcus Webb had been released from prison after serving 4 years. His sister Amy had died 3 years ago, but the treatment had given her more time. Time Marcus had spent writing to her, supporting her as much as he could from prison. He had moved to another state for a fresh start, but he sent Nora a card every Christmas, thanking her for giving him the chance to say goodbye to his sister. Jason Park had finished community college and was working as a counselor in a youth detention center, helping troubled kids find better paths. He had turned his mistake into motivation, using his experience to prevent others from making similar choices. Even Derek Sutton had shown some growth. Still in prison with 10 more years to serve, he had completed anger management courses and vocational training. Nora occasionally received reports about him from the corrections system. She hoped, though didn't quite believe, that he might eventually turn his life around. Ashcliffe itself had grown moderately, adding a few hundred new residents while maintaining its small-town character. The bank was still there, now managed by Michael, the former teller who had been so frightened during the robbery. He had stayed with banking, determined not to let fear drive him from work he found meaningful. He was proud of Ashcliffe Community Bank's record, not a single robbery in 5 years. The cottage on Maple Street was the same as always. Same worn wooden floors, same books lining the walls, same comfortable furniture. Nora had added a few things. Framed photos of the hostages at their 5-year reunion dinner, a certificate from the State Police Training Academy, the letter from David Chen's mother that she kept in a special box. But mostly, things were the same, and that was exactly how Nora liked it. On this particular October morning, after finishing the birthday cake, Nora drove to the county seat for a training session. She was teaching a new group of negotiators, young officers eager to learn. She told them about building rapport, about reading people, about staying calm in chaos. And, as she did at every session, she told them about David Chen. "I want you to understand something," she said to the class. "You will not save everyone. That's not a failure of skill or commitment. It's the reality of dealing with humans in crisis. Free will exists. People make their own choices, sometimes tragic ones. Your job is to give them the best possible chance to make good choices. But you can't control the outcome, no matter how skilled you are." A young officer raised her hand. "How do you live with that? How do you keep doing this work knowing you can't save everyone?" Nora thought about David Chen, about the 16 years she had spent running from his memory, about the 12 people in the Ashcliffe Bank who had lived because she finally stopped running. You live with it by understanding that saving most people is still worth doing, even if you can't save all people. You live with it by learning from your failures and using those lessons to succeed next time. And you live with it by forgiving yourself for being human. She paused, looking at all these young, earnest faces. "I failed to save someone once. It broke me for a long time. But eventually, I got a second chance. And I used everything I learned from that failure to save 12 people. David Chen's death was a tragedy, but it also taught me things that allowed me to prevent other tragedies. His legacy is that he made me a better negotiator, even though I wish with all my heart I could have saved him." The classroom was silent. Then the young officer who had asked the question nodded slowly. "Thank you for sharing that." After the training session, Nora drove back to Ashcliffe. It was late afternoon, the autumn sun slanting through the trees, painting everything in gold. She took the long way home, driving past the bank, past the library, past Rose's bakery where Marcus was closing up for the day. At home, she found a package on her doorstep. Inside was a birthday card signed by all 12 of the former hostages, along with photos of each of them living their lives. Sarah with Nora Hope, Rose Patterson in her garden, Michael behind his desk at the bank, all of them moving forward. There was also a separate letter from Sarah. "Nora Hope asks about you constantly. She wants to know about Grandma Nora and the day you saved her life. I don't know how to explain crisis negotiation to a 5-year-old, so I tell her you're a hero who keeps people safe. She says when she grows up, she wants to be like you. I can't think of a better role model." Nora felt tears prick her eyes. A 5-year-old girl wanted to be like her. Not because she could talk down armed criminals, but because she kept people safe, because she helped. That night, Diane from the library came over for birthday dinner. She brought wine and a book she thought Nora would enjoy. They ate the chocolate cake that Nora had made that morning, drank too much wine, and talked about everything and nothing. "71 looks good on you," Diane said. "Better than 51 did, honestly. You know why? Tell me. Because I'm finally living as myself. Not hiding, not pretending, not running, just being. That's a good way to live." "It is. It took me way too long to figure it out, but it is." After Diane left, Nora sat on her porch and watched the stars come out. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear music from the high school football game, the Friday night lights that brought the community together. Tomorrow, she would go to the farmer's market. Sunday, she would volunteer at the library. Normal things. Good things. She thought about her life. The career she had lost, the career she had found, the quiet years and the dramatic ones. All of it had led here, to this porch, to this town, to this strange, beautiful balance between the ordinary and the extraordinary. David Chen's face rose in her mind, as it sometimes still did. But it didn't bring the crushing guilt it once had. Instead, she felt a kind of peaceful sadness, an acknowledgement of tragedy without drowning in it. "I didn't forget you," she said softly to the memory. "I never will. But I also can't let your death be the only thing that defines my life. I hope you understand." The stars glittered overhead, silent witnesses to one woman's quiet peace. And Nora Bannister, 71 years old, former detective, current baker, eternal helper, sat in contentment and watched the night settle over her town. She had made mistakes. She had suffered losses. She had run away and hidden and tried to forget who she was, but in the end, she had found her way back, had learned to carry her past without being crushed by it, had discovered that redemption was possible, even after years of believing it wasn't. She had saved 12 people. She was training others to save more. She made excellent pastries and terrible jokes, and had good friends and a life full of meaning. She had failed, yes, but she had also succeeded, and she had finally learned that one didn't cancel out the other. They both existed, both mattered, both shaped who she was. Tomorrow, Ashcliffe would wake up to another ordinary day, and Nora Bannister would be there, living her extraordinary ordinary life, ready to help however she could, ready to be exactly who she was meant to be. Finally, after all these years, she had come home. Not to a place, though Ashcliffe was certainly that, but home to herself, to acceptance, to peace. And that, she thought as she stood to go inside, was the best kind of heroism there was. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear what inspired you the most. And where in the world are you watching from? Let us know below.